I just got to get this out of my system. So there's a piece in the New Yorker magazine. Well, let me just start with this one. This is from Wall Street Journal, and it's written by a guy, Jason L. Riley, who's from the Manhattan Institute, a pro-immigration Republican type guy. So clearly against the vast majority of the Republican Party. But he will still promote this fiction entitled The President's Base versus the Republican Party. There is no difference between Donald Trump's base and the Republican Party. People got to get this through their head. There are people who may have come out to vote for Trump who hadn't voted in the past. And there were certainly some people who voted for Obama that voted for Trump. And that's a very important cohort. It's also, relatively speaking, an infinitesimally small cohort. It's even understating it to say the vast majority of people who voted for Donald Trump voted for Mitt Romney and voted for John McCain. Even saying the vast majority is an understatement. And this guy writes as if this is not the Republican Party. The GOP's inability to scrap Obamacare this week means, among other things, that President Trump will end his first 6 months in office without a major legislative accomplishment. And one question is, how much his supporters care? This is the big thing now. The Republicans don't seem... not the Republicans. The Trump voters don't seem to care about legislative victories. They don't seem to care about policy. NBC News polling gives the president a 40% job approval rating among all voters, while 55% disapprove. In counties Mr. Trump won last year, however, voters still back him by 50 to 46%. In other words, in Republican counties, they still support Donald Trump. And he goes on to... Look, his disapproval rating has climbed 5 points to 58%. Yet among Republican voters, his favorability has barely budged and remains above 80%. And he's going to forget that. He's going to forget that number he just put out. 41% of all voters believe the Trump campaign helped Russia to try and influence the election. But that belief is shared by fewer than 1 in 10 Republican voters. The average Trump supporter's concern about Russia roughly matches his concern about president's unreleased tax returns or witching hour tweets. And then he goes on and he does the little shift. I spoke to someone from the Brookings Institute. And there's blue-collar jobs in the traditional and primary and secondary industries are gradually disappearing. Mr. Trump's ability to appeal to these voters is the reason he won and the reason his base isn't abandoning him. His base doesn't give a crap about that because his base is exactly the same people who voted for Mitt Romney, who said those jobs are never coming back. Exactly the same people. And exactly the same people as John McCain, who voted for John McCain. There's a sliver of people. And we're not even sure if they voted for Trump as much as voted against Hillary Clinton for a myriad of reasons. Emily Ekins, a Cato Institute scholar, is part of a politically diverse team of academics and pollsters in the process of analyzing the 2016 election, told me on Monday that Trump supporters are less concerned about his policy agenda and more interested in having someone who understands them occupy the Oval Office. In other words, Trump voters are tribal. In other words, Republican voters are tribal. Now, this isn't to say that Democratic voters, at least a certain amount of them, are not tribal. But Democratic voters seem far more interested in a broad range of issues. I think there's a lot of evidence to support the idea that Trump's main appeal was validating the fears and concerns of a certain segment of Americans who felt they were being ignored by elites in the media, elites in politics, elite Republicans. Yeah. Nobody was articulating that Barack Obama wasn't an American citizen. We'll vote for Romney because at least he went to New York and kissed Trump's ring, who was the chief invalidator of President Obama. This is of little comfort to Republicans in Congress. Unlike the president, GOP lawmakers must face voters next year and desperately want some legislative victories to campaign on. Well, he probably does too. But when they vote for those Republicans, it's going to be for the same thing, right? To vote against those San Francisco Democrats who don't live in their district. And this isn't just a right-winger who's trying to maintain the credibility of the Republican Party. Peter Hessler in The New Yorker, how Trump is transforming rural America. And it's all about this county in Colorado where people are unshook, where they voted for Trump and they organized for Trump. And things galvanized when they had the deplorable there. And people admitted that, like, I just like the fact that he gets up every day and he tweets out and he slams the media. And I wasn't swayed by the Access Hollywood tape. And
might have been enhanced by the Access Hollywood tape.
Yeah. And the descriptions of inner-city crime seem cartoonish to urban residents, but not to rural voters. Trump won nearly 65% of the vote in Mesa County. Everything he said activated people to vote for him, almost 65%. And they're still with him. And we need to understand this. We're going to write this up in the New Yorker because all you East Coast and West Coast liberal elites, you need to understand this. 65% of them almost voted for this guy. What's going on? Well, in 2008, nearly 64% of them voted for John McCain. And in 2012, 64.5% of them voted for Mitt Romney. In fact, that is more than the 64.10.1, which is not nearly 65%, if we're going to split hairs. Mitt Romney beat Donald Trump in this district, in this county. Barack Obama got 32% of the vote in 2008. He got 34% of it in 2012. And Hillary Clinton, if there's any political story to be taken out of this, Hillary Clinton lost 4 percentage points to Gary Johnson. Period. End of story. That's the only change that took place over the course of 3 elections. That people really didn't like Hillary Clinton there, and she lost about 15% of her support to Gary Johnson. Didn't even go to Donald Trump. Mitt Romney outperformed Donald Trump in Mesa County, Colorado. The idea of writing this piece, I mean, it's interesting, but the piece should not be what Donald Trump has done to Mesa County or how Trump is transforming rural America. To the extent that that area was transformed, it dropped in support for the Republican candidate by 0.4%, by 0.04%. No, this should be the story of, holy crap, look at these Republican voters, completely exposed. They would vote for John McCain. They would vote for Mitt Romney. They would vote for Donald Trump. They would vote for anybody with an R on their last name because of how much they hate Democrats, how much they hate liberal elites, whatever it is. how little they care about policy. It doesn't matter. That's the real story. They're not transforming anything. He's exposing the Republican Party for what it is. You want to do a story? You go to Wisconsin, you go to Michigan, you go to Pennsylvania. What changed there? And the story very well may be voter suppression and a Democratic candidate who had too much baggage. But this is like the equivalent of the what is it? The National Review going to Brooklyn in 2009 say they're Obama voters who still support him.
The transformation of Brooklyn.
It's unbelievable. This place is just
Park
like
Slope
you can
voters
just see the
vote
way.
For
yeah.
Obama.
You should just see the way they talk to each other now. It's all very careful not to be offensive with their language, and it's just bizarre. Can you imagine that piece?
It sounds pretty funny.
I just had to get that off my chest.
Sam, this is Senator Susan Collins from Maine. You know why I opposed Obama?
Because you're a lady.
I thought...
Oh.
Well, that's
Sorry.
very demeaning of my work as a revolutionary, but I thought the way that he threw Reverend Wright under the bus was offensive. And as I say in my state, Ungawa, black power. Healthcare for all, nationalize the means of production.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos